Ever since I was a little kid, I've had an interest in many things, a very strong interest, one of which was in weapons. They're cool. They're cool to look at, they're cool to feel. I can't say whether they're cool to use or not for their intended purpose, but when it comes to knives, they have many uses, and I was aware of that ever since I was a kid. What I was not aware of was the law. So this is like an episode 2 of things I did that were illegal as a child but didn't know were illegal because I wouldn't have done them if I had known that I was doing something wrong, but nobody ever told me that it was wrong, so I did them anyway. If you want to see part 1 or episode 1, you can watch a recent video where it involves fire. So we're going from fire to knives today is our focus. When you Google knife laws of North Carolina, there are some quick facts that the state wants to let you know about. The first one being that concealed carrying any knife is illegal aside from a pocket knife. This is basically a pocket knife. The blade is under 2.5 inches. The blade is completely covered when it's closed, and you have to manually open it, and it fits in your pocket. This is basically what a pocket knife is. Anything other than this cannot be concealed. The second quick fact is to remember that knives may not be possessed openly or concealed on school grounds. The third is it's illegal to sell or furnish a Bowie knife to minors. I broke all of these laws as a child. Even better is a lot of this is on video because I was on YouTube. I was doing my thing. I found an old video from 2013 where I'm 13 years old called Field Findings. This video is part of my exploring and herping series where I just go outside, do my thing, find what we find, and record it.
Wow, it's solid. So it is pretty thick, actually.
And at one point I was like, what is that on my waistband? And I was like, oh my God. I got hit with the memories because I used to open carry very large knives, like 8 to 12 inch Bowie knife bayonet. This was specifically a bayonet, but it's like a Bowie knife style basically. So there is law number 1, that it is illegal to furnish a Bowie knife to a minor, which is literally what's on my waistband in this video. It looks so big compared to me too because I was so small, and I would carry it on trails, on sidewalks, in the neighborhood, in parks, because I was a bushman. I was an outdoorsman, and what outdoorsman doesn't have a knife with them? Like, I saw it not only in like shows and on, like, I don't know, on Animal Planet, whatever, people just you're whacking with a machete through the bushes, and also just adults around me. I saw like most people like, oh, you need this thing cut? Let me just pull out my pocket knife, because it is a normal thing for people to carry pocket knives. I mean, I liked pocket knives, but I was like, well, it's pretty dang small. So sure, I would carry a pocket knife, but I'd carry a few sizes, including this bayonet. I feel like I faintly remember getting some like looks when I was just on trails. I like to be barefoot, so it was like this barefoot kid running around by himself. Sometimes I'd bring like my friend with me, and we'd be barefoot running around with like sticks and knives. Sometimes this would actually be in the woods, and it probably wasn't a bad idea to have a knife on us. Other times we were just like on a nice little walking trail or on a sidewalk in a suburban neighborhood. What was probably a little bit worse is when I started having an everyday carry. Usually it was something kind of like this. I preferred the spring action, which is, there are some spring action where the blade goes like zoop. I would just have one where it automatically pops open like so when you activate a lever or press a button. The problem is this is larger than a pocket knife. This is usually the smallest size I would carry. This is a 3-inch blade, which is over the 2.5-inch pocket knife size blade. Now, the blade is fully covered. You can't cut yourself when it's closed. Here's the thing. I was probably starting it around 10 years old, and I brought them to school. Also, before we continue, this video is not sponsored, but talking about weapons is pretty much guaranteed to not get any advertisements. So if you'd like to support me, and if you're a fan of merch, there's a new item on the GoHerping shop right now. It's just some little acrylic pins. It's $10 for a set of 2. It's a stand design and a potato design. It's just something small, it's simple, and I think they're pretty dang cute. So if you want to grab a pair, I made 50 of them, and I'm shipping those out now as soon as you order. But if you want to grab a little set of acrylic pins, you can do that while they're still there at GoHerping.com. Why did I bring them to school, do you ask? Did I have what was going through my head? nothing sinister. I just was so used to seeing knives and carrying knives and using knives. Just in my daily life, even as a kid, it would be like, I need to open my gummy bears. I can't get it open. Boom, I pop out my my 5-inch blade and I just start cutting away. And I think proof that I had no ill intention or even realized I was doing anything wrong is, even though I technically had it concealed in my pocket, I wasn't trying to hide it. If I did need to open a cheese stick when I was eating lunch, I would just pull out my knife, pop out the blade, and open my cheese stick and then put it away. But the fact that I was the weird, quiet kid that always ate by himself meant nobody ever saw my arsenal. Also, I was so keen on following rules when I knew that the rules existed that I wouldn't even bring my phone with me, because you would get like a 20-minute detention if you were caught with your phone, which doesn't even matter. They don't even take it from you. You literally just have to sit in a room for 20 minutes. I was so scared of that happening that I was like the one kid that would actually lock his phone in his locker and not touch it until after the final period bell rang. Because the thought of being caught and punished for something, even if it didn't really matter, really bothered me, and I really wanted to follow the rules. I just didn't realize that there were rules around knives. This one's like a very silly green. This isn't even mine. But I really like the super tactical style looking knives, which are pretty aggressive. Maybe they're like a military green. Like, it might have kind of scared a kid if I pulled it out. Now, I don't want to try and defend my child self other than the fact that I truly just didn't know. But it's not like there aren't other dangerous things. Like, there's scissors. There's like, I don't know, baseball bats. I'm sure there's knives in like the school kitchens or cafeteria or whatever. But I do understand where anyone, a kid or adult, bringing a knife on a school ground is, a little iffy. And it's not like they ever told us, like, don't bring knives to school. And there weren't even, like, metal detectors. The security at my school is not, there kind of was no security. Back in my day, there were security people, like people employed to keep the school secured, but they were not armed. There were no metal detectors. And in fact, there were no locks on the school. It was a primarily open campus, so theoretically anyone driving by or walking on the sidewalk next to the school, and granted it wasn't in the best area and we did have quite a few lockdowns, but anyone could just walk from the sidewalk straight into a classroom because the classroom doors were all facing the exterior of the buildings and they were not locked. For a small period of time of literally a few weeks, the teachers were required to lock the doors after the bell rang, but students kept being late to class and getting locked out, and we wouldn't hear them knocking on the doors. So they just stopped locking the doors again. So yeah, that was kind of a tangent, but it's not like I was having to hide these. I would just I'd have probably maybe a 6-inch blade in my bag and a 4-inch blade in my pocket. And then of course the fact that I was concealed carrying this was also, even if I wasn't on school grounds and a kid, still you gotta open carry most knives, which means that they're pretty much visible in plain sight. It's going to be usually on your pants, preferably with your shirt tucked, so that you can actually, anyone just kind of casually walking by in normal lighting can see that there's a weapon on you, which is open carrying. And open carrying is fine, but I was concealed carrying, and it was not a quote ordinary pocket knife, and it was on school grounds and in parks. And oh my god, whenever I record videos that are a little more controversial, I usually get a second opinion, like from Alice, and she actually said I should not record this one, but I keep seeing comments saying that you're interested to hear more. So even like, I never really got into fights or anything. I think I was in like some very tiny scuffles, but keep in mind, I was a very small boy, so anyone could just basically blow me over just by going like, and I'd fall over. So I was really never in any situation, but I want to be able to go back and ask myself, because I can't really remember what I would say. Like, let's say some kid came up to you and like started punching you, what would you have done? And I wonder if he would have said, well, would I have done that? I don't know. So there were the little pocket knives, and then there were the slightly larger ones. And then I got into the more bushcraft style knives, which, like, this is one that I've made videos on this knife. I guess that's proof that I just really like the knives. I dedicated videos to them, and then I just kept kind of upping my way to larger things and such. And yeah, they were just super handy, because I started carrying them just to do little everyday tasks, like cutting random things that you need, like opening a Pop-Tart. And then I was doing like bushcraft stuff. And then eventually, as I got older, I was like, well, I guess it is good to have self-defense. But self-defense rarely ever went through my head, because I was also pretty aware that I am a very small child, and I am pretty much useless in any situation. And I think to a certain extent, carrying like the super big knives outside, sure, I was like, well, I guess technically it might be useful if like a bear comes out of the woods. But it was mostly just for fun. I didn't see them as toys. I knew they were dangerous. I had cut myself with them, and I realized how like you can bleed a lot. Like the sharper a knife, you don't even feel the slice of the knife sometimes. So I knew that they weren't toys, but I certainly did carry these kinds of things for fun, because I guess I kind of transitioned from toys to the real thing without really, I don't know. I really want to be able to go back and interview myself, which I think you can kind of partially tell by watching the old videos of how I was treating things. It was mostly me mimicking those that I looked up to, whether it was like most of my videos were based on Animal Planet or BBC Earth shows, and even like the outfits I was wearing, I would try and get it all khaki colored or military colored or camouflage, and I just felt that certain style blades went well with the outfit. So I wasn't trying to like show off and be like cool. Like I know a lot of people will carry firearms and stuff, and they only open carry just for the sake of looking like mean or dangerous. And it certainly could have been worse. I mean, I see stories of kids with like they're found with a Glock 19 in their backpack or something. So, but I wonder if I had the opportunity to carry a firearm as a kid, I wonder if I would have been like, sure, seems cool to me. Because I'm not actually sure. I had so many toy firearms that I probably would have been like, I'm experienced, I'll try it. I really don't know. I want to see a simulator of many things. The first is what would happen if I was caught, because I was aware that metal detectors picked metal up. I knew what a metal detector was, and I did know not to bring them there. I guess if you had asked me, tell me about knives, like where can you bring them working, I probably would have been like, oh, you can bring any knife anywhere unless there's a metal detector, which you should leave it at home. That's probably what I would have told you. What would I have told the person? I think I just would have been so caught off guard and confused, like, isn't every kid carrying a 6-inch blade right now? Are you telling me if I go through other kids' backpacks there won't be weapons? I feel like a lot of these stories make it sound like I was living on a farm, but I was just living in like normal suburbs. Because I mean, especially like say with more rural children and rural families, your kids are most likely going to more quickly learn about like more physical tasks and maybe more dangerous things like operating machinery or driving, say, gators around a property or working with firearms or with other sorts of pretty dangerous objects. Because while I want to say I was safe with knives, I also thought that I was safe with fire, and then I look back at the way I managed fire and I was like, well, never mind. Unfortunately, as a 11-year-old, basically, I somehow managed to violate almost every North Carolinian knife law aside from actually harming someone. So yeah, if you go through my old videos, maybe you'll find some more Easter eggs of things I shouldn't have been doing. It's like a game of bingo. Maybe I should make a bingo card of just activities I was doing as a child, and you have to do a scavenger hunt through my videos to check them all. I might actually do that. That sounds kind of fun. Now that I think of it, if I had discovered butterfly knives as a child, I think I would have no fingers, because I got really obsessed with flipping knives. I just thought it was fun to see how many times I could flip it without stabbing myself. So I got up to like 3 flips. So I know that there are children watching, and maybe you are like me and you don't realize how many things are illegal. Well, here's the thing. There are so many laws, and unfortunately, ignorance of the law is not an excuse, as they say, because that was truly my only defense as a child, but that's still, it didn't make it okay. So what I was going to say is if you feel like you're doing something wrong, maybe check with someone and make sure it's okay. The problem is that when I was a child, I never had any thought of doing anything wrong. So, kids watching, how do we navigate things that we might be doing that's bad or illegal when we don't realize it? I'm not completely sure because I didn't think this ahead, so give me a sec. I guess my advice would be, just because you see an adult doing something doesn't mean that A, it's automatically acceptable, and B, that a child should do it. And it's one of those things where it's like you'll understand when you're older, and I cannot believe I unironically am officially at the age where I have to tell a child that they'll understand when they're older, because I truly did not understand. I don't know what advice to give. I guess to make this easy, let's just boil it down to physical objects. If you're carrying a physical object and that object was designed with one of the intents to cause harm, maybe reconsider. So sure, a pair of scissors can be dangerous, but when scissors were being designed, they weren't intended to cause harm. And also, just because you see something on TV doesn't mean that you should do it too. It turns out when they say do not try this at home, they mean not only at home, but they also mean like other places too. I didn't really realize that either. Do you want more? 'Cause I have more, but I don't know how much I should talk about. This is episode 2 of Illegal Things I Did as a Kid. If you want to see episode 1, you can check that out. And that'll be it. I'm Alex. Thanks for watching.